Okay, so what were some insights, anything that people learned or discovered about that technique? How do people try to break that? Yeah, go for it. What's your name and club?
Grant.
Hi, Grant.
One thing I was doing basically, I did it like once, but I basically stepped out and pushed to the side.
Yeah, stepping out and pushing to the side when their structure was good or not so good, or both. Yeah, what did you discover when you pushed to the side and went offline?
He kind of had to do like a half step to readjust his balance back.
Absolutely, and it's easier to make that half step readjustment, like, wait, something's coming off, if you're a little bit not quite square, because then you can pivot your hips, right? And you want to have that flexibility to readjust your footwork to go to the threat at hand. If you're completely squared off, like I think, where was it, Dan? We were talking about this a little bit. If you're completely squared off, this is a great way to resist direct onward front pressure. But what if somebody's just a little bit offline? When you put a sword in people's hands, that's a lot easier to drive off, right? So that's why we have a little bit of this backward hip action so that we can pivot our hips into that action. Great comment. Other thoughts? Yes, what's your name and club?
My name is Emma.
Emma, thank you so much for being here. Yeah.
I got my feet set up because I was curious, like how I would be doing my dominant side plow.
Oh.
And have my hand out, but when the person walked into it, my feet were not right for that because the pressure was coming in differently than it would be when I'm actually plowing.
Yeah. The angle of that pressure for when you put your sword in your hand was a little bit different than what you were doing without the sword, right? And there's a little bit of this variation, but in general, one of the things we're going to get into later is some of the nuances of how those guards and attacks, where the pressure comes from, where that structure comes from, and you kind of jump 2 hours ahead to find out what was going on. No, that's great. I love that you did that. Other thoughts? Thank you very much. Other thoughts, questions? Did this kind of make sense? Yeah, oh yeah, go for it, Jeff.
So Jeff, CBA, just sinking further into your guard is a super effective way to just further strengthen up that. So as they're coming in, if you just further bend your knees, lower your center of gravity.
Yeah.
It's even easier to just
Yeah.
take in that force.
Yeah. The lower your knees bend, the higher your HEMA rating, right? I saw a hand over here, Ryan, right? Right.
I'm Ryan from Ramsey.
Ryan, thank you for being here.
Yeah. And I noticed that even just a little, like a slight turn of the foot impacts how much something can.
Yeah, this and seeing where my body is here versus this, that does make a very subtle and very important difference. And we're going to dive into some more of those details, right? But the general conclusion for all of this is that our body position, our angle of our hips, how we orient ourselves, this whole engagement of our body is really, really crucial. And so a lot of times when our structure ends up being broken, we'll define a little bit more later, but a lot of the structural components that are incorrect start with our bodies. And so we can go, wait a second, I did counter that attack with a fluke guard. I did the right thing, but then it broke. It didn't work. Well, why? Chances are something can be adjusted with one's body. So this is really, really crucial for us to work on. I'm going to close that down, and we're going to actually finally pick up swords. So stay here for a second while I do some demonstration before we get our gear on. Jason, if you can come back out. So now we're going to start exploring how this principle of how we can have our mechanical advantage, the structural advantage against our opponent really explores, or it really comes out. So Jason, if you can get a nice on guard position just with your sword forward, and I'm going to get in a nice stance here. And all Jason and I are going to do is just bind at the sword, and we're just going to feel these different binds and feel whether or not we have advantage or not in certain positions. Just play around. So I might push like this, and if Jason realizes he's lost, he'll change a little bit. Yep, just go back and forth. And the goal is not to advance or hit your opponents. It's just to be like, oh wait, I have advantage here. I'll reset, and then Jason might reset here. Just keep passively binding, keep engaging. If you feel like you're losing this bind, just change through or pull back or something like that. We're just going to do some nice, gentle bind work. No attacking towards our bodies, no hitting in the face. But please wear your masks and gloves anyways, right? We're going to do that for a few minutes, and then we're going to regroup and talk about how these principles extend through our swords.